Hello, everyone. Richard Copperthwaite for Northwest Access TV. Thanks for joining us. We have another one of our periodic shows on Swanton. A lot of things going on in Swanton, and appreciate you watching us here, and you'll be very informed about maybe some things you didn't know about. We have a full panel, and believe me, they're going to do a lot better describing all the things they're doing than I am. Reg Belova, the Swanton Village Manager, Sandy Kilburn, and Kathy Lavoie, both with the Swanton Enhancement Project, also Restorative Justice Center. And on my left, Ethan Gilson and Melanie Gross, both involved with Swanton Notch, Ethan with New Day. So again, that's just touching some of what these folks are involved with. Reg, you want to kind of start, boy, as we set off air, Swanton, seems like a lot of things, a lot of connections with different organizations and stuff, and I'm impressed that you're able to keep all this stuff straight, but maybe give us a little preview for the show.
Okay. Thanks, Richard, for
Good
facilitating this.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I can keep it straight is I got a lot of good people to work with, and they help me out with that. But the motivation behind this segment, as far as I was concerned, or where I got the motivation from, it was came from the Swanton Enhancement Project, and one of the task forces were the reduction of substance abuse. So, we try to develop a culture in Swanton that, you're accepted, regardless of what is happening to you. So, if you are experiencing some substance misuse, alcoholism or whatever, we're a community, I feel, that we embrace you and we try to help you through your process. We don't throw you under the rug. We don't, toss you out. We're a community that's going to be there and rally behind you and help you become another viable citizen of the community. So with that, bringing the Notch in and having our SEP committee in on this conversation, I thought that would be a good mix to show, what do we have in our community for this.
Sounds like that sounds great. Swanton Enhancement Project kind of got some of this really, really rolling, going back a few years. Sandy, you want to jump into and tell us about
Sure.
Swanton Enhancement Project, and Kathy?
Well, we started in April of 2013, 5 years next month, with 6 people in my living room. And actually, I hate to admit it, but the inspiration was all the wonderful things that were going on in St. Albans. And
As in the downtown revitalization efforts?
Right. Yeah. And we needed an economic development person. That was actually the goal. But fortunately, 2 of the people that were in that room were Hank and Molly Lambert, and I know you've had them on the show.
Yep, sure have.
So they had the Paul Costello's agency, community development program in mind from day one. So we did that 3 years in, and out of that, we ended up with 5 different task force. So you can go to a different meeting every night in Swanton if you'd like to. And some of us are on more than one of those committees.
I bet.
Kathy and I were on the Substance Abuse Committee. And I guess when we get talking about Notch, we can tie in how that all came about. But that's how the Swanton Enhancement Committee started, with 6 people, and now we have, how many people would you think in Swanton are involved in?
The Arts Council will have, 60, 70 people, I think?
Over 100 and some odd people are
easily.
involved now in Swanton.
So Kathy, sounds like some pretty good momentum going with some of this stuff?
Yeah, there certainly is, and it's been going on for several years now. And as you can imagine, the community as a whole identified the 5 areas that they wanted focus on: economic development, substance abuse, recreation.
It was downtown parking.
Downtown parking.
And,
They've changed over the years, over the course of the year.
Outdoor recreation.
Outdoor recreation. And over the course of time, what has happened, some of those committees have combined with others. Some of us are in the process of doing that. As an example, I'm the chair of the task force for substance reduction. And we followed, one of the first things that we did is we took a trip to Rutland for Project Vision and met with that team. They also, I called upon them quite a bit. And ironically, just about the time that they were flipping their committee to become a community committee, a wraparound of what we need to do in our community to keep people happy, healthy, and engaged, our task force was doing the same thing. So that's the status of where that task force is. We know that we can most likely combine with the Swanton Recreation, doing programs with them that talks about the full wraparound services that we need in our region to support families, to support children, to support those people that maybe are suffering with substance abuse, and also to deliver programs around prevention. And that is really had been our biggest focus, thanks to our prevention queen, Miss Sandy Kilburn. And that was the creation of the summer Notch Camp. For years, and I'm not the expert here, the camp in Richford had been going on. And we talked quite a bit and decided that we ought to be able to replicate that in Swanton for Swanton children. And so we did that. This year was our third year.
It'll be the fourth.
It was very successful, and it further validated that if we are to have a healthy community, then our single focus cannot just be on substance abuse, but rather on supporting families and supporting children. The uniqueness of our camp is that every day we do something around mindfulness, so that the kids have an understanding of what mindfulness is, how they can support each other, how they can, help themselves to de-escalate and think through a process. So that's what makes our little camp unique in Swanton.
And Melanie, you're much involved with this. And again, this is a summer day camp we're talking?
Summer day camp. We're a 2-week program. This is, as you say, this was our third summer. We're looking to expand, and hopefully in the next year or so, the hope is to double that time to a 4-week program in Swanton, and that's one of the goals that we've been working towards, is increasing those opportunities for kids. The nice thing about our camps is, as Kathy so beautifully illustrated, we collaborate with a lot of area agencies. We couldn't do it without the rec department. They provide us with this space, and they also offer companion programs. So the children that attend our Notch morning camp, so we're a half-day camp. So we run from 8 to noon, but then the rec department also offers afternoon offerings. So it makes it even more accessible, because then families could have full day camp opportunities for children. So the collaborative is important. We also collaborate with the library, the Swanton Public Library. We have a librarian that comes in every day and does literacy programming at camp. She sets up a library in the dugouts. So there's a lot of community involvement. We have some fabulous volunteers. Sandy's been on site, doing some work there. We have Lucy Hill, who comes in and does some arts and crafts for us. Then the other nice thing for Swanton is we hire counselors from our local high school. So I worked with Mary Hartman on connecting to students there. They go through an application process. So they fill out a Notch application. They go through an interview process. And MVU has done such a beautiful job of preparing those kids. They come dressed, ready. Very often it's their first time at a job interview. We also interview the community service volunteers who come in and get hours for community service as well, because we feel like that's important. It's kind of a stepping stone for them. Often it's their first interview, their first job opportunity, and sometimes it creates a career path for them. It kind of opens those doors for further employment. So it's really, really a full community project. So we like to bring in those, and we had a number of young, early high school, late junior high children this year who kind of showed up. They felt as though they were too old to be campers. So we put them to work. We put them to work and made them junior counselors.
Great.
So.
What's the age?
We're open to 0 to 18.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
So our camps, and the nice thing about the Notch
pretty
camps,
inclusive.
yeah, the nice thing about the Notch camps is, though we operate out of Swanton, it's not limited to only Swanton participants. So we like to have the broader community come in and participate. participate in camps as well. So if your child is in St. Albans and can access the Swanton camp, we're open. If your child is in Highgate or Alburg, we love to have people from all over, because it's nice to bring those kids together.
And again,
in that
two
kind of-
weeks?
We have a 2-week program. We do a week of training for the counselors and the community service kids prior to the start of camp. And then we run for 2 weeks. We offer a free breakfast and a free lunch each day. We're an open meal site, so anyone from 0 to 18 can also walk in and access the food programs. So even if they're not campers, our meal program is open to anyone in Swanton. So we do often have families who come in with their young children at pickup time, and they share a meal with us as well. So we've tried to create as much opportunity as we can for
That's
families.
great. Can kids do more than 1 2-week? Is it just 2 weeks per kid for summer or per summer? Or can a kid come back for a second 2-week camp, or is it just for 1 2-week
We are
period?
currently just offering the 2 weeks in
So 1
Swan.
2-week.
Richford, the camp in Richford that has been running for 25 plus years is a 6-week program. So we're looking to increase. We were kind of gauging the success in Swan, and as the program grows, we see the need for that in this community as well. So we want to offer more supports for families. So the goal is to take our 2-week program to a 4-week program in the next several years, and then hopefully build from there. So.
Ethan, you also have here a Notch-connected person,
Yes.
and also New Day. Tell us about what you're up to.
Yep. So Notch New Day Treatment and Education Program is it's a program through Notch that primarily specializes in addiction, and we, similar to what you were saying, instead of bringing the community together, we bring these addicted individuals back into the community. If you know anything about addiction, it's a very isolated state where the individual feels like they're the black sheep of the family, or that they've never had that one true connection, or they just don't know how to connect, and that usually goes back to childhood trauma, to core self-beliefs. And so we try and reintegrate that individual back into a structured sense of community. And what I mean by that is we connect them, we require our clients to have primary care doctor, dental, medical, and we are, like, I specialize in the counseling component. We offer Suboxone maintenance, and we are in the process of interviewing for a job coach to help people figure out if they're ready to interview, if they have the skills to interview, if they have their GED, and areas of specialization that they may want to pursue. So it's a really well-rounded picture when the client comes in, and when the client comes in, we do a biopsychosocial assessment, which encapsulates their entire, it's kind of a snapshot of their entire life experience, so that we really know what we're looking at, and so we can intervene in the best way possible to help them to meet their goals. So, yeah, that's New Day.
How do you feel you're faring with this? I mean, just opioid abuse gets so much attention, I guess, in Burlington. We're taping this show, for the record, on Wednesday, March 20th, and by the time we end the show, spring will have officially checked in, for what that's worth.
Yeah.
But last night, Tuesday, March 19th, I guess there was a town hall meeting in Burlington. But again, just the opioid issue is getting a ton of attention, but it sounds like the issue's getting plenty of attention in Swanton. You feel again, a tough issue. Well, I mean, a lot of.
Sorry, clarify the question?
That was just kind of a broad question. Do you feel like you're faring pretty well with this? Are you making progress on a issue that's just such a huge, issue out there? Do you feel like you're, making some progress with this?
Yeah, I mean, I think for each person, there's a different solution, and so each one individual is their own answer. So it's kind of hard to say, overall, I think that the resources are there. I think the community is highly guarded, and a lot of these folks would rather not tell what they're doing for fear of exposure in a negative way than to open up and say, hey, look, I need help. That it's like an ego death almost to open up like that. It's a tough answer. It's a tough question to
sure.
answer.
I
I
understand.
think that our program is a spoke. There's a spoke, and then there's a hub, and then there's inpatient. So we're a spoke, and so we work with individuals who have graduated the inpatient, the hub, and then they come to us. So we deal with them. We work with the more stable population, and so. That population, from what I've seen, is doing really well. And so, I think we're making a big difference, but that's relative to.
Sure, here, thanks.
So,
Yeah,
Ethan,
anybody can jump in any time here too. Sandy?
would you say with BART and with the opening of New Day in Swanton, that it's much easier now for people to get into treatment than it would have been a couple of years ago?
Oh my God, yeah, definitely.
BART being the treatment center, whatever it should be
In St.
described as in
Albans.
St. Albans.
Yes, yes.
I mean, before BART showed up, maybe before you guys, I mean, folks around here had to go to what, Burlington or Newport for treatment at times? I mean, good luck on a tough winter day or something.
Yeah, and the bottleneck that was happening, in the wait lists that were occurring, most people, it was insane to get on a wait list. I mean, you might have
Really?
yeah.
Is there a wait list in Swanton?
Right now, we're not taking patients, so if somebody calls, we refer them to BART in the meantime, and I think within the next couple weeks, don't quote me, that's going to open up, and we'll take referrals from BART and from other treatment programs that would, give us a good idea of the individual stability, so we'll be taking new patients.
Yeah. Yeah, Reg, go ahead.
So with the police department, I had a conversation with the police chief today and give him a heads up that we're having this program tonight. And one of the things that he did say that they have seen a reduction in the use of opioids in Swanton. And part of it may be just the cost of them are going up, but also the the treatment availability that we
Right.
have in Swanton. And and it's a hard thing to say but if you are a user, it's actually easier for you to try to seek out treatment than to go against the law and rob a convenience store like
Yeah.
the two gentlemen that we saw recently, and they were just trying to get money for their addiction. It's easier to get the treatment than it is to have to go through that other process. And it's the fact of just sitting there and saying, I've had enough of this, I need to move forward.
Yeah.
There was just quickly, there was this thing I saw, I think it was on Facebook, I can't remember where it was, but it was a teacher giving an analogy to his students about self-worth. And he held up a $20 bill, and he says, any kids want this? And they go, yes. So he took it and crumpled it up. He says, anybody still want this $20 bill? And all the kids says, yes, absolutely. So he threw it on the floor and stomped on it and crushed it and everything else. And he says, anybody still want this $20 bill? And they all said yes. He says, so the analogy here is, or the story behind this is that this $20 bill didn't lose its value regardless of what I did to it. He says, and it's the same thing, you as a person. You get stomped on, you get crushed, you have issues that happen, but you still have your worth and you never lose that worth. And I think this is what we try to develop in Swanton with the programs. And I mean, it's been there for a while, but now it's kind of coming up through having a crescendo or whatever you want to call it. But it's starting not to be to go and hide. It's like, I need the treatment and it's available more readily now.
Yeah.
But
Interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not just been around, again, we talked off air for about a little over 20 years. And I should note, NOTCH is what the acronym for Northern Tier Center for Health, described as a federally qualified health center. NOTCH has quite the presence in Franklin and Grand Isle counties, I guess. Just seems like NOTCH has just developed a much higher profile in recent years, maybe because of some of the programs we're talking about. Anybody want to jump in on that, or do you think has NOTCH always had a pretty high profile? It just seems like I'm hearing a lot more about it these days.
Well, Notch has 8 different sites. In fact, we just combined the 2 separate sites in St. Albans into one office.
Oh, really? Okay.
We're in Fairfax and Enosburg and Alberg, Swanton, and 2 in St. Albans. We also have a pharmacy and a dental office.
Dental office in Richford, correct?
And in Swanton as
Swanton
well.
too, wow.
Right.
Kathy?
I think some of it is that Notch has the niche of the wraparound services. We know that individuals and families are much more successful when they can receive their services, if not all from the same place, then at least through the same venue, the same pathway. And that's what Notch has perfected. I'm now at the Restorative Justice Center, and I work with guys and gals out on probation and parole, and work with them on their dreams, their career pathways, what they want to do, how they want to turn their lives around, what training do they need, what job would they like, what schooling maybe they never got, and getting that, breaking through that barrier that they have self-worth and that we're here to help them is critical.
With the job market so tight these days,
Well,
is that helpful for the folks you're dealing with?
it is, and I will say this, that I've been speaking about second chance initiatives for a long, long time, and not every employer is inclined to support somebody that's been through our criminal justice system.
Well, I'm not sure they're going to have much of a choice.
However, if this is the only reason, is our tight market that motivates them and decide that these individuals really do deserve a second chance, so be it. I'll take it, right?
Take what you get.
You take what you get, because I know that they will prove otherwise. But almost every one, or certainly a large percentage of those individuals that I work with at the root of it, have a substance abuse issue of some sort. Right. And that's, you're not quite sure what came first. Some of them, have a horrific childhood that they're still dealing with that led to a substance abuse, and others of them, not at all. They had a much more privileged childhood and education, and yet they still found themselves down the path of substance abuse. So it strikes everybody, every socioeconomic that is out there. And the only way that we're truly successful, whether we're at the Notch or we're sitting on a reparative panel board as Sandy and Reg do, and I for years sat on court diversion, and now at the Restorative Justice Center, it really is the wraparound services that helps to make its individuals successful. That's what Rutland is finding out. That is how Project Vision has changed there, and it's some of the conversation going on in Swanton around the Swanton Enhancement Project, that we need to combine maybe some of the task forces and look to deliver a more holistic community support of individuals, whether it is in reduction of substance abuse or outdoor recreation or the Arts Council or any of the other things that we're doing through the Swanton Enhancement Project.
Melanie, how long have you been involved with work for Notch?
So I've only been with Notch for a year now. My background is in education. So I came to Notch not knowing healthcare, but knowing people.
Right.
And so that was kind of my takeaway was I'm an outreach coordinator, so I'm out connecting with people and communities and discovering what is needed in each community. And one of the things that we've identified in all the communities that I'm working in is Vermont is a very rural state. We don't have as much opportunity to access programming and opportunities as the Burlington area, the Chittenden County area does. Transportation is also a huge barrier for a lot of the families that we work with. So we try to bring the resources to the community rather than expecting the community to go to the resources. Yeah. Because a lot of the folks that we work with, you can say the program is in Burlington, it might as well be in Alaska. Yeah. Because many, many, many families in our region don't have access to transportation. It's impossible. It's impossible. So one of the goals of some of the work that we're doing at Notch is to bring that sort of program. The day camp is one of the examples. We're doing cooking classes. We're collaborating with the area agencies, and we're bringing one to Swanton during the April break to provide children and families an opportunity to do something constructive during the break. We're also collaborating with the rec department so that there are offerings daily for children and families to participate in. So, because we know that if we can get them involved and engaged and excited about doing these things at a young age, that's the primary prevention. That's where we need to put our energies. and that's where we can make the biggest impact. So the families that we can draw in and support, as Kathy said, as a wrap, providing them opportunities, providing them medical and dental care, providing them services, counseling supports. If we can support their full growth, their holistic health, then we'll be successful in overcoming these obstacles that we're seeing. And it's Swanton is a Franklin County town that's close to St. Albans, but it's far from St. Albans. It's not the same. It's very different. I work a lot in the Richford region, and Richford and Swanton are very, very similar. The problems are similar, and transportation is a huge barrier for a lot of our families. So as I said before, rather than expecting families and giving them a flyer about something that they can do in St. Albans or Burlington, our goal is to bring that programming here so that that it's walkable. So when we offer a program, we make sure that we locate at a place that is walkable for the majority of Swanton or the town that we're working in.
Ethan, you said at this point, folks seeking treatment with the New Day program, there's a waiting list at this point?
There's not a waiting list right now.
Not a waiting
We're
list.
just not taking patients. So we're referring to BART right now.
Okay, so you're not taking.
Right.
Again, it's obvious a staffing issue. My question was just about staffing. Is that always a struggle for the notch units around here? Or?
It's not a staffing issue. Right now, it's just a matter of the intake, getting the intake paperwork, verbiage, rewritten, I think. So once that's done, then we can start, admitting new people. So.
What about in terms of funding? I mean, one hears about just health, just any health issues. Funding always seems to be a concern. Is Notch on pretty solid ground? Anybody? Is Notch hanging in pretty well financially?
So we have a magnificent group of people that work in Richford that are so good at grant writing.
Boy, you just lost your great board president, Marcia Perry, stepped down not too long ago, correct? After many years
She
of great
did.
service.
She did.
Is Pam Parsons still?
Pam is the woman.
Yeah, still there.
And she has a great staff, and of course we're federally qualified, so we do get some federal money, but they're writing grants all the time.
Yeah.
And getting grants all the time. And, people keep knocking on our door saying, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? How about doctors especially are wanting to come into our practice.
Really?
Now the director, the medical director is Audrey Von Lapel. And Notch never says no to anything. I mean, we took over a pharmacy in Enosburg so it wouldn't be sold and moved out. So they're an amazing group of women, really.
And people who get Notch services, they're paying what they can. Is it a
We have a sliding fee scale.
sliding fee scale?
And no one is turned away.
No one's turned away.
Right.
Interesting. Kathy?
There is a lot of great things going on, and I know that all three of us would agree that we need to find a better way of capacity building within our little community. The committees for the Swanton Enhancement Project are all still intact. We're all trying to do the best that we can, and the general public really comes out to support the efforts. But what we need is more people to support the work, the decisions. What's next? What are we going to do? What are some great ideas? How can we build this? Because too often it's the same people sitting around the table, and it makes it difficult. And we truly, sincerely want others in the community to come forward with their ideas, with their time, with their energy, and all of that, because we're at a critical stage at the Swanton Enhancement Project. We've been doing it for 5 years, and none of us want to get done, and yet we need help. So if any of the people watching this have any ideas, can lend a hand, can join one of the groups, they can contact Reg especially, or Sandy or I or any of us, and just support us.
Sounds like that's always an issue.
It's always an issue.
Organizations always looking for some younger blood, different blood, whatever.
Right, new ideas.
New ideas.
Yeah.
Reg, how do you, again, you've been involved with all this stuff for a long time. Do you see just kind of an evolution with this, or just some real growth with Notch, with these organizations, things coming together better, or?
One of the things I've noticed more of is that there's a lot of these organizations that kind of overlap others. So, I mean, they complement each other. So, like with the Notch, a lot of the programs that they offer overlap very well with the Swanton Rec, and with the library. And both of those organizations are going crazy right now. I mean, the library isn't just a quiet space for reading anymore. I mean, it's more of a community gathering spot now, and a lot of activities happen there. I see a lot of overlap now for what we've seen. But, with Kathy's point, it's more of needing the volunteers to come out and help us, move these missions forward. I don't want to call it you get volunteered out, but you get to a point where you get saturated. I pick on my wife. Maybe I'm one meeting shy of a divorce as it is, but she's a wonderful lady that just keeps supporting me and just letting me, continue to go forward. But we do need that vitality to move these projects and these programs forward.
Yeah.
So.
You mentioned your connection to the Restorative Justice Center. You want to talk about that some more? Again, you're dealing with folks who are out on probation or parole. Is this anybody? Does it depend on the seriousness of their crimes, I would guess?
Right. State's attorney, as I understand it, Kathy knows more about this than I do, makes the referrals. And people are required to admit to what they did, and we work with them to make a contract so that they make amends, and if they follow through, then they don't have a record, is my understanding.
It really would be amazing. I've served on the board for a few years, and yet every single day in my new job, I'm learning something new. And the restorative process, we're seeing it in the schools. We have schools here in Franklin County that are operating, and the kids are running restorative circles and restorative panels. The panels that Sandy and Reg serve on are reparative panels, and those are for specific people. The restorative justice system is basically open for anybody that needs that support if they've had any interaction with the criminal justice system. So I could work with any individual. They may not be part of the reparative panel.
How successful of the people who are dealing with you, how many do what they're supposed to do? And have you got any rough stats or anything? Is it?
At some point, you really should have the restorative justice panel on.
Yeah.
It is one of the initiatives that I'd like to take on.
Sure.
But so other people can speak about stats more than I can. And I often say I don't always necessarily know what the restorative process is or what some of the names are, but I know how you're supposed to treat people. Right. And that is the way in which I go about my work every single day. And yes, we have a lot of really good people who have made some really poor decisions. Yeah. And I believe that they absolutely need a second chance and sometimes a third chance. And, it also makes good economic sense, to work with them, what career pathways, what job do they want, because if we don't help them to get a job, then the rest of us as a community aren't benefited from it either. But the panels have been going on for years and years. I'm sure the panel members would be glad to come in and speak specifically about panels.
Yeah, that sounds like that'd be a good show.
It follows along with Kathy's point of a person's self-worth. It falls along with that analogy I gave earlier, with the $20 bill. People, you could think of how many times in our lives growing up that, we were that close to doing something really stupid and getting ourselves in trouble. Our only luxury is we never met that point where we had, whatever looking after us. A lot of people don't have that option or that opportunity, and they bumped their head and they got into trouble. So now it's like, they didn't lose their self-worth, they just took a wrong path, and it's up to us to be able to sit there and help them redirect themselves. And the panel that we sit on, we have conversations with them, where are you going, where are you heading, what were your thoughts, and that kind of stuff. And you kind of get into, how they did make that path, and you could actually see, oh, geez, I could actually see how you got that way, and let's help, get you back to where you need to be a viable person. They do restitution to the victims. They say, they write a letter to them, and they have letters to the people that they impacted, family members and children and families and stuff too. So I got on, because I can't say no to Sandy. I got on it, what is it now, 3 years now? I think it is. Yeah. But,
So
Yeah.
I'm going to stick my neck out here and try to say a little bit about addiction over the last 40 years and primary prevention. Much of what we do and call prevention is intervention, and we definitely need to do that. And there's elements of prevention in all the intervention. But when we talk about primary prevention, number one, prevention means that it doesn't happen. You prevent it from happening. And we know that the most formative years are 0 to 3. So some of the most effective prevention is when we work with people before they're holding that crying baby and they have no idea emotionally how to handle that. So in this state, Prevent Child Abuse Vermont does a lot of parent education. They have over 10 different nurturing parent programs. They have an office in St. Albans, and the woman who is the coordinator for St. Albans, her name I think is Heather Nacat. They do ongoing support groups. So this drug situation is terrible. I mean, here's a headline from the Free Press: deaths from alcohol, drugs, and suicide hit a record high. That could be paralyzing, when we read that. But on the other hand, I think we've made some great strides with addiction, in that we know now that you can't arrest your way out of this program, and that punishment doesn't work. We know that it's a disease. We know why people get into trouble with drugs, because they tell us that. I had a quote. Anyway, what it said, and this was from a podcast that VPR did on addiction a couple of weeks ago. The more we drink, the more you drug, the less you feel. So we know that people get into trouble to numb those bad feelings. And we know that good people get into trouble because they hurt. And we're making progress now. And there are volumes written about, we're running out of time.
No, we have about 10 plus minutes.
Volumes and volumes
Very good.
written about addiction. Because we have been talking about this for over 40 years. I'm an old lady, believe me. So people that know me know that I always have a book. And I just would like to recommend this book, which is called, it's pronounced Luca, The Little Book of Luca, Secrets of the World's Happiest People. And this is so important to addiction. And this is a feel-good book. I have bookcases full of books on addiction that just tear your heart out. So I would recommend this to anyone who's, you don't even have to be having an addiction problem. It's a resource book, and it's written by the CEO of the Happiness Research Institute in Copenhagen, and it definitely talks about families and raising children. And the other part that's important, and then I'll stop, is that doctors now are calling for more primary prevention. They're talking about that prevention starts in the womb. That that how our children develop is the most important piece of everything, all the social issues that we deal with. So we are making progress.
Kathy?
Many of our schools, as I said, are doing restorative justice practices. Many of our schools are involved. MVU has an incredible Blue and White Day, which is all around prevention and as well as treatment and support if they need it. And we know that there are, the battle will always be, as it is with kindergarten, at what age and how much money do we spend at the kindergarten sector versus the college sector. And it's a constant battle because there's only so much money. But the prevention piece of it really can be and is much cheaper to deliver than paying for it on the other side. And I think that Swanton gets that. And we're taking our steps so that the Notch Camp was all about prevention. It was all around making sure that our youngest and our most vulnerable had a place to go if they had no other place to go. What's beautiful about it is it's a camp that is being delivered to kids across socioeconomics. Everybody is going, and they're engaging with each other and they're supporting each other. So in the community, we need to be doing the same thing, and Notch is doing it, and other MBU is doing it with programs. Swanton Elementary School is doing it with programming, and hopefully over the course of many years, what lessons the programs increase and what lessons are the programs that are being delivered at Notch because of addiction and abuse. So,
And the camps are free. And they're also drop-in, so they're available
Absolutely.
to everyone. Those
Anybody.
are too big.
Food and meals,
And food,
right?
no barriers, no.
Really?
We do have a registration form, but they are free. They are drop-in. If you haven't done your paperwork, we're very different than any other camp because generally it's capped at a certain number. We want to double our numbers. Our numbers are growing every year. We want that number. Last year we had 128 registered campers. The first year I think we were right around 40. So we've steadily grown each year. I anticipate that we'll register around 150 this year if numbers show that kind of tracking along. And I'm hoping that everybody will come, and it is drop-in. So you don't have to feel committed to coming for the entire 2 weeks. If you can come for 2 days, if you can come for a week, we're open, we're welcoming you. And if you have friends that are up, we had a lot of campers who came and said, "Oh, my cousins are coming from California for the week," and they came. Right. So there's no barrier for our camps.
Can you give me a kind of a typical camp day, just activities? What are we talking about?
So we have a couple of, and we rely heavily on grants as well. So we bring in outside presenters.
Science.
We do science. We do STEM activities. We do arts and crafts. We have games and sports. We bring in local resources. We have Pelkey's Archery who comes in. We had the Missisquoi Refuge come in who did a program. We had a law enforcement day. The Cliff, the Children's Literacy Foundation. We write for summer readers. So we have a local storyteller. We have a Swanton author who comes in and does our Cliff presentation for us. And the children walk away with 2 new books. The library is there every day. So kids are engaged. They can move freely from activity to activity. We offer different blocks of activities, and the space is beautiful. We have a wonderful facility there at the rec, the big open spaces. We bring a bike trailer in, the Bike Smart, the Rise of Vermont Bike Smart trailer comes for a week. We have community gardens we can access. We're hoping to add a cooking program this year.
This is starting when?
We will be running we haven't nailed down the dates. We don't want to create a lot of overlap with existing programs. So there's a 21C program that's expanding their programming. So our program weeks will be in August. So it'll be the first 2 weeks of August that our camps will run. We'll train counselors and community service kids. They'll receive CPR certification as well as youth mental health training. And then we'll do some on-site training with Rise Vermont. They come in to do some activity training for us as well the week prior to that. So, and the goal is to get to a 4-week camp. And that's really something we've written a grant, and I'm hopeful that the grantees are listening and will receive that funding and be able to expand that program.
So possibly even this coming summer? Is
I
the hope?
don't anticipate we'll be able to expand
Okay.
this year. The grant that we wrote would be for 2020.
Okay.
And we've asked to double the amount of time. We've asked to go from 2 weeks to 4 weeks. So, because Notch self-supports the camps, we do write some grants for the activities, but Notch funds the camps. So we're looking at ways to
Ethan?
create it. Yeah, sorry.
I just want to bring the conversation kind of full circle because I think addiction is a major piece of this. And what you're talking about is helping people develop a sense of meaning and excitement in being, alive and connected. And when you talk about addiction, you're talking about somebody who's lost that sense of meaning. They really live in a kind of two-dimensional gray reality. And there's an element of pride that keeps them from talking about what doesn't work. And to a certain extent, they're really convinced that what they do does work. And so to help break through that prideful layer and help them understand that what they're doing isn't working is a really difficult, big step for them to take. And so, I guess the message I want to deliver to whoever's listening is that that's an okay step to take, and that if you do walk through our doors, it is absolutely, you'll be welcomed. And that's really important that people get that because, these programs are great, but what we're really talking about is a human being connecting to another human being and feeling like they're included in something that's important and meaningful. And that's where they get that sense of strength, that they think they can do something that's great. And to bring it back to your $20 bill, my clients would rather accept a $20 bill than themselves any day. And so, that's just so everybody understands that that's what you're looking at when you see somebody who's broken from drugs. To see the human being before you see the word addiction or addict or whatever, that's a significant piece. And just to throw that out there like that, at the New Day we do get that, and because we get that, we receive people on a very deep level that. I don't know if they're ready for it, but that's there for them if they want that. I just want to give a metaphor of the frog. If you put a frog in a pan and you heat it up slowly, the frog doesn't know that it's boiling to death. And so when you look at the actual process of substance use, people don't realize, one beer here, one beer there, a six-pack there, binging on the weekends, and then when it becomes a full-blown problem, they don't even know that they're dying until it's almost too late. So to bring this into a much bigger picture, if you look at the entire life of the child, right? This frog is warmed up from the womb, really, and the emotional cellular development that happens in the womb. That's where and it's so important to have all these programs wrap around from the very moment the pregnancy occurs up until development, so that person can get what they need, so that baby doesn't develop in an environment that shapes that person in that particular way, so that when something bad does happen, which inevitably always does happen in our lives, they have the strength to say, you know what, I have enough meaning and purpose and sense of esteem in myself to know that even though this is difficult and this is disappointing and sad or whatever, I can get through this.
And that's what I think we want the community of Swanton to know the most, is
Yeah.
that these are the wonderful things that are happening at the Notch Center in our community that are changing lives, that are changing people, that are supporting the community every single day
Yeah.
in the walls of Notch. And that's the treatment side of it.
Yeah.
And yet, down the road a mile, we have the Notch Camp, and we really are changing little lives every single day by supporting them.
Yeah, almost had it, Sandy. You want a quick,
Here's the
almost
quote
last
to
word?
end on. Rita McCaffrey, who was founder of Dismiss House and also Mother of the Year, said, "I taught my children first to see the goodness within."
Yeah, that's a good quote. Reg, you want the last?
You can't
You're
top
good?
that.
Can I have the last word? I'm just kidding.
I guess we'll call it a day. Thanks very much
Thank
to
you.
again
Thank
Melanie
you.
Cross with Notch, Ethan Gilson, Notch in the New Day program, Kathy Lavoie, Sandy Kilburn with Swanton Enhancement Project, Restorative Justice Center, probably among other things, and Reg Bellabo, the Swanton Village Manager, connected to, I think, probably just about everything going on in Swanton. But appreciate the time. I know how busy everybody is. Thanks. I think you covered a lot of ground, and good luck with all your initiatives. And thanks to my man Zach out there for doing all the hard work here. Thanks for watching us on Northwest Access TV. I'm Richard Cobrathwaite. We'll see you down the road.